What's up, everybody, and welcome to a Tuesday edition of Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And we are also presented by Parasso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care made in Italy since 1948. Parasso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Parasso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps. Hockey15. That's Colby Cohen. I'm Johnny Lazarus, and we have another double guest show. This morning, we got Arthur Staple joining in about 5 minutes. Then we got Marty Biron talking about the change in general managers for the Buffalo Sabres. We're going to get into some general manager stuff this morning with Arthur as well. Before we bring on any guests, Colby, what's up? How you doing this morning, sir? I'm in a weird mood. We both haven't slept, so this is going to be like a weird show. But yeah, what's going on?
You know what, Johnny?
Actually, I have one thing I want to say, if I can. I want to take the floor. May I? I'm not looking at you. Can I?
Go ahead, yes. Man. You don't have
Cutter Gauthier was the best player on the ice last night, and if Team USA were to take him, I'd be all for it. I'm just going to say that.
Okay,
he's unreal.
Okay, all right, no problem. But I saw Jeff Marek tweet something last week, and he said, moving forward, if you're going to do what you just did, you have to then say who you would take off the team. Because everybody is like, for all the players that were not on the World, I know it wasn't called the World Cup, of the Four Nations team, that you're saying should be on the Olympic team. So if Cutter Gauthier should be on that team, who should come off?
This is going to sound like a crazy take. I would I'd be fine with Cutter getting Kyle Connor's potential spot. I mean, maybe that's
That's a crazy take.
That's going to come back and bite me in the ass.
Try again. Why don't you try again? Because otherwise, Vic's going to get you on a clip, and it's going to be.
He didn't play last year, really. He didn't play in that championship game. He didn't play in the championship game. I'd say Brock Nelson. I see people saying Brock Nelson, but Brock Nelson's a center. Cutter Gauthier's not a center. I don't know. Cutter's got 18 goals this year, I think 36 points in 33 games. And he is noticeably the best player on the ice in a lot of games. Leo obviously is amazing too. Leo Carlson is unreal. And, I get that those guys are playing together, but Cutter shoots the puck. His goal last night was insane. His skating.
How's his play without the puck, Johnny? Do you feel
he's been good defensively too?
He can check well enough and play without the puck well enough to go.
I don't think he's perfect.
The big dogs.
I don't think he's perfect, but he's getting
I don't think anybody expects anybody to be perfect. Look at Austin Matthews in overtime last year. I mean, he blew coverage and cost the U.S. that game.
I'm taking Cutter Gauthier over to Brinkett any day of the week. I know M. Johnson, LGRW.
I like Alex DeBrincat. I think Alex DeBrincat is incredibly underrated, and he's a pure scorer, and if you put him with studs, he's going to score. And the other thing I like about DeBrincat is he doesn't play his size. He plays bigger than he is. Now, if you're asking
Cutter actually is big though.
If you're asking me for a pure scorer that's a little bit off the board, it certainly wouldn't be DeBrincat for me. It would also be Cutter Gauthier. I think you have enough good centers on that team. And I think if you took Brock Nelson off that team and you added Cutter Gauthier, you still have that heaviness that I think Brock brings in Cutter. He's a big, strong kid, Cutter Gauthier. He's heavy on his stick. He wins puck battles. He's also learning from one of the best coaches there is. I watched a little bit of that Ranger game, Johnny, and he's I think last year you thought he'd win the Calder, didn't you? And
he was my pick.
He looks like a guy who could score 40 or even potentially have a 50-goal season at some point. I mean,
he might have 40 this year.
His scoring ability is just that good. I mean, that goal that he scores in the slot, most players, it's a good spot to shoot from, but it's almost automatic for him there. And then look, he gets an empty net goal at the end of that hockey game. But in order to score an empty net goal when you're protecting a lead, you have to be trusted to be on the ice in the final minute. That's something that everybody overlooks when they talk about how many empty net goals Ovechkin has, or, I think, you look at Nikita Kucherov, he's always out at the end of the game, right? When his team is protecting a lead. I do think that there's something to be said for that with these players that are guys that can score 40, but are also trusted to be out at the end of a hockey game. And that's where you want your best players to go. I think we were yearning to see that from Bedard. I mean, it's pretty rare to see Shesterkin just get beat like that, I mean, but that release was just, Vic just rolled the clip of Anaheim's second goal, which was a play to Cutter in the slot. And that thing just got on and off his stick in a hurry. I mean, he look, I don't disagree with you. He looked pretty good in that hockey game, Johnny, but there's a bigger conversation, in my opinion, surrounding the New York Rangers. And I know Arthur Staple is here. And before we pivot and talk Devils, and, we ask him to give us and put his ear to the ground on, what's going on in New Jersey and Newark right now. But there's a bigger Adams Fox conversation that I really do want to have with you guys. And good morning, Arthur. I hope you're off to a good morning. I think we don't have your audio yet, I don't think. So we do need that. There we go. I think I can hear you. I think I can hear noises. Oh, there he is. All right.
We got you.
That's not the voice of God, everybody. That's the voice of our friend Arthur Staple, who can sometimes be confused with God. But you're coming into a conversation here, Arthur, that I worry about how Johnny's going to handle it. So I am glad to have an adult here in the room. And the conversation surrounds two defensemen, one named Quinn Hughes and one named Adam Fox. And, a lot was talked about last year at the Four Nations and how Adam Fox sort of fell down the depth chart a little bit with Mike Sullivan with Team USA. While I do think Adam Fox has had a good season, it's been reported that they were one of the 6 teams that were in the running, or at least making offers to go out and get Quinn Hughes. And I guess my question would be, what does that mean for the future of Adam Fox? Like, are they looking at him as not a number one defenseman anymore? Now, granted, who wouldn't want 2 number one defensemen, but do the Rangers still hold Fox in the light that Johnny and others potentially look at Adam Fox and hold him in the light that they do?
Everyone?
Well, I appreciate the kind words, Colby. Johnny doesn't talk about me like that at all on Tri-State Hockey, so I'm happy that someone's given me some flowers here. But I think there's a little bit of a pattern here, and I don't want to say it's deliberate, but I think, and also seeing the return last night of Chris Kreider and Jacob Trouba, and the way that people are talking about Artemi Panarin, whether he's going to extend there or whether they're going to trade him. I don't know that the Rangers fall in love with their stars, the guys that are there. Adam Fox was one of the first star players there to extend under Chris Drury, and he's got whatever it is, 4 years left or so. And obviously the injuries have been an issue for him the last couple of years. But thinking about where Quinn Hughes would fit, and just talking to the people that I talked to around the league who were a bit puzzled as to how that would work. Adam Fox would suddenly be your second power play guy. He's going to be your second pair guy. He's going to play 18 or 19 a night instead of the 25 that he usually plays. It would have been an interesting, you take your swing. I totally get that. The Rangers aren't in a place they want to be. Quinn Hughes is top 3 defenseman in the league. When he comes available, you take your shot. But I didn't think that they were a serious player because of some of these other things. But yeah, I think it's a fair question to ask, that if a guy like that comes available, and who knows if that'll ever happen again, whether the Rangers see the need for somebody who's not just a complement like a Vladislav Gavrikov on that top pair to Fox, or whether they need somebody who's considered to be a notch above Adam Fox. It's kind of a strange thing to think about, and it was hard to wrap my brain around to think that they were serious players in this. But I think not that the bloom is off the rose at all, but I feel like maybe the Rangers are feeling that there's more from Adam Fox, even though I feel like before he got hurt, he was having a fantastic year given their inability to score. His metrics are fantastic, point per game guy. And as we can see with him out, the main reason why the power play works at all on this team is because of him. So it's a head scratcher. And I wonder, I don't know that there ever needs to be a conversation. I don't think that's the situation that they're in. But I think if you make known or it comes out that you're hot and heavy for a defenseman who's basically a slightly better lefty version of the guy that you have might need a little bit of reassurance that he's still your guy.
Yeah,
I think you guys are making. I think you're trying to make something out of nothing here. Like this is a stretch. Come on. It's Quinn Hughes.
Johnny.
It's Quinn Hughes. They're not trying to get like.
How would that, Johnny? But Johnny, how would that work? How do you have two such similar guys? And I mentioned this on Twitter the other day. So those are your two guys, two fantastic guys. Any team would love to have one of them, and you have both. And you have one of the slowest forward groups in the league. So those guys generate tons of offense. They transition really well. Quinn Hughes is one of the best skaters in the league. I don't understand how that fits with how they've changed their team around to be heavier. I mean, they're a defensive style team right now. That's their system. They're built to win 2-1. How does Quinn Hughes help you with that?
Quinn. What? No,
I understand that he's Quinn Hughes. I totally get it. But
yeah,
when you already have Adam Fox and you're struggling to score and you're struggling to get up the ice with speed, how does another fast defenseman help you get up the ice with speed when your two best defensemen are faster and more skilled than 99% of your forwards?
Because
it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Conversation, Johnny. I really don't. That's the thing. Like, I want you to
can't even speak right now.
I want you to give us a real response here because
I was about to.
Do think that this is a very reasonable conversation to have when we're talking about a top player in the league, and the Rangers we were told by David Pagnotta that they were in the mix. It was reported that they were one of the 6 teams that actually made an offer. We have no idea what the offer, if it was even remotely close. We can all guess that it wasn't. But look, Drury has been pretty quick to discard players, as Arthur has said. There's not been a lot of loyalty happening in Manhattan right now with that team. And so I don't think that this is an asinine conversation to have, Johnny.
I don't really think so either, but I also, again, I know like casual hockey fans probably won't agree with me, but I think you guys will actually understand what I'm about to say. Quinn Hughes and Adam Fox are not the same player. I know both guys are probably labeled as offensive defensemen, which they are to an extent, but Quinn Hughes is a guy who actually like leads the rush. Adam Fox makes the first pass, which starts a rush. Adam Fox is not a guy who typically carries the puck up the ice through the neutral zone, dishes it off, and drives the net. Like Quinn's a guy who's leading the rush up the ice. Like Adam makes a great first pass. He breaks the puck out well, but he's not flying up and down the ice like Quinn Hughes is. Like Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar are different in that sense because their skating is actually what makes them the offensive defenseman.
They're both power play quarterbacks. Can we agree on that?
That's for sure. Is it so bad to have 2 elite power play quarterbacks?
No, it's great for a fan.
It's tough to pull off, though.
Yeah, how are you going to pull that off when both guys are used to playing 1 minute and 40 seconds of every power play? Like I think you're saying we're making something out of nothing, but that's a real thing. These guys have egos, Johnny. No. When they sign for $9+ million, the expectation is that I'm going to be here. And it's not like Adam Fox is over the hill or a bad player now. He's still a top defenseman on the whole planet.
I'm saying you're making something out of nothing by saying the Rangers are looking for another guy, that like Fox isn't their guy. They're not doing that. It's Quinn Hughes. He was available for a trade that had no protection. Like that's why they were doing it. Like,
but that's when untouchables become touchable.
It's not like the Rangers
is an untouchable.
But it's not like the Rangers were in on Noah Dobson. Like, it was Quinn Hughes. Like, what are you talking about? Like, anyone would go for Quinn Hughes. I'm sure the KHL teams were probably calling Vancouver about Quinn Hughes. You know what I mean? Like, it's just Quinn Hughes. So that's why I say you're making something out of nothing. Like, the Rangers aren't seeking a number one defenseman, but if one becomes available, especially a left-handed one, obviously they're going to be in on it. Who wouldn't? That's all I'm saying.
But also by saying that, you're saying that the current number one defenseman that they have is not good enough, right?
No, yes, you are.
No,
exactly
I'm not.
What you're saying.
No, I'm not. If Florida, let's see, what other teams were?
Detroit.
Detroit, yeah, but theirs is like reasonable because they probably. Mo Sider, give Mo Sider flowers. Yeah, Mo Sider is a good defenseman.
Very different, Johnny. Very different. Very different.
Can we actually pivot into one real thing though, because it is coming up in the chat a lot, and Arthur will have a good opinion on Mika being scratched. Like, I feel like that's a big story from yesterday. Before we do the Devils, I would love to hear Arthur's opinion on that, and then I'd like to share mine as well, if possible, on my own show.
I mean, it doesn't look great. You know, my instinct in these kinds of situations is always, this is not the first strike, but in this case, it does seem to be. And the way Mike Sullivan talked about it, it seemed to be that, you know, they've set a standard, much like the Islanders with Matthew Barzal earlier in the year. You set your standard, and no matter if you're the most important player on the team or the 20th guy on the roster, you got to live up to it and you got to sit. So, you know, the coincidence of it being his best friend's return game back to the Garden probably was not lost on a lot of people. Certainly wasn't lost on anybody online. But yeah.
Well, Trouba did tell media yesterday that him and Trouba stopped by Mika's 2 days ago, I guess. Like, they were together. Yeah.
Of course they did. I don't think that had anything to do with him being late. You know, there was a big icy snowstorm in the area on Sunday. I'm sure Mika lives in the city. You got to get up to morning meetings in the skate in Westchester. It's a decent drive on a day with no snow and ice. So, you know, stuff happens. I totally get that. And I, you know, where they were last year with that malaise that went through that room. And Mike Sullivan's coming in. He's got to set a standard. You would hope that it's as evenly applied because Mika's super important. And I imagine that first goal of the game last night that started in a 3-on-5 situation. If Mika's the one up there at the top, maybe that doesn't happen, but that's water under the bridge at this point. Those kinds of things seem to happen to the Rangers when they're missing a guy. It's obviously they end up missing him a lot more than they think. But yeah, I mean, Mike Sullivan, it's his first year. He's trying to make sure that the standards are met, and when they're not, doesn't matter if you're Mika Zibanejad or Artemi Panarin or whoever, you gotta follow the rules. And you know, I do wonder still in the back of my mind, just because I'm a skeptical person by nature, whether this is a first offense or not a first offense. But whatever it is, it's done. Excuse me. He's going to play tonight. And I imagine it's all pretty much over with.
And again, like, Mike Sullivan didn't really go into the details. He's not going to go into the details. But also, Arthur, the funniest part about it is that fans, if this was last year, fans would be like giving Mike Sullivan a round of applause. Like, all fans wanted last year was Mika Zibanejad to sit a game and for the veterans to be held accountable. And this year, because Mika's playing well and the team needs 2 points, it's like, why would they do that? Find another way to punish him. Like, fans, New York fans are,
rules are rules.
I was not surprised.
I think this is it. You have to go about your business this way. It's a shame. I think this stuff, it does happen. I don't remember who did we have on our show that outed Ovi for getting scratched for being late or something like that in his career, and they called it he said he had a hamstring injury, or like they protected him in the media, but within the locker room I forget, somebody spilled the beans to us on that. Maybe it wasn't even on the show. It might have even been offline, but this is common. Like, you miss a meeting, you're late to practice at this level. It's common practice. So I don't think there's much to this other than he was late. But I do agree with Arthur, and I can appreciate that skepticism that you have, because you always do want to know where what is the history of a situation like this,
right,
and how much is there. So Arthur, we know that you started a new podcast with Johnny, the Tri-State Hockey Podcast, and I will say the three of you guys have great chemistry. So if you're not watching this show or listening to this show yet, you're going to want to, because obviously we have a lot of people in our audience that are super hooked on these three teams in particular. And one of the reasons I wanted you to come on today, Arthur, was that I wanted to talk about the New Jersey Devils and the feeling around Newark right now with everything that has transpired over the last week and things that are leaking out. And you have Kevin Weeks reporting that Andre Palat and I forget the other name,
Dougie
Hamilton.
They were on the block for part of that deal, and it does seem to me, and people left in our comments yesterday, Arthur, that my comment that I made yesterday, that it feels like there's been this massive shift in the last couple of days of people turning on Fitz. People were kind of coming to our chat yesterday in our comment section and saying, no, this happened a while ago. So what is your take on the pulse of this fan base and how they feel about the general manager right now leading the way in Newark?
I mean, there's a definite feeling of he's got to do something. And my understanding is he's been trying to do something since the beginning of the year. Even, once that 8-1 start started to fade a little bit and the injuries were mounting. But, it's one of these situations where you sign Dougie Hamilton. It's a big coup to get a guy like that in free agency when they were still kind of, all of their good core guys were still very young and fairly untested. And so Dougie comes in, you give him the very restrictive, there was no move. Now it's not a 10-team no trade, it's a 10-team trade list. So he can veto a trade to 21 other teams. Andre Palat, two-time Stanley Cup champion, you bring him in to be a glue guy, give him a full no move. At the time, these are standard operating procedures, unfortunately, especially for a team in the market like Jersey, where it's not a destination team, especially with where they were roster-wise. They were still a young, untested team. So you got to convince people to go there. I've covered the Islanders for 20 years, and it's always that way. That's why the Islanders don't get many free agents either. You have to sweeten deals to get guys to come there. It's not the Rangers. It's not Toronto. It's not LA. So that's what they had to do. And now, even at the time when you sign those deals, it might come back to bite you sooner than later, because you might have to move on from these guys as they get older and break down a little bit. So here we are. This is the time when it's come to bite them this season. They need to move money out. If they were even to get Quinn Hughes, they would have needed to move money out. If they want to get Ryan O'Reilly, Steven Stamkos, Braden Shen, anybody that's been linked to them in the rumor mill in the last few weeks that I think they're all in on, they've got to move money out. And you don't want to move out Nico Hischier. You don't want to move out Jesper Bratt. You don't really want to even move out Dawson Mercer if you don't have to. You want to move the guys that can clear a ton of space and clear some roster space. And those two guys don't seem to want to go. And whether there's specific trades that they vetoed, whether there was a trade with Vancouver maybe that Dougie was in that he said no to, who knows? It's a tense situation for sure. I think, talking to people, and I think some of the other Jersey people that cover the Devils have heard that ownership is behind Fitz. They understand that the injuries and Timo Meier's absence have been maybe even above the crazy rash of injuries that everybody's been experiencing this year. And that when they're healthy, this is a team that won 8 in a row to kick off the season, and that they can get back to it. And even when Jack comes back and Brett Pesce comes back in a couple of weeks, they're not going to be out of it. So the Hughes deal didn't come to fruition. They were never going to be able to offer the best package in that deal if Minnesota was offering what they were offering and Detroit had what they had to offer. So, now they got to bide their time and wait till free agency in 2027 to see if they're going to get Quinn Hughes at some point. And now you got to pivot, and you got to pivot fast. The season is not lost. It shouldn't be panic mode to me. And I understand the fans feel like this has been building more than just this year. But to me, this is when it's come to a head where you've got to try to budge these veteran guys off the roster, and they won't budge, and that's their right. That's the deal you gave them. But I think there's definitely some tension coming out of Newark for sure.
Well, Arthur, like my last point, because we're about to talk about the Buffalo Sabres with Marty Biron. Since Tom Fitzgerald's taken over, and honestly, in the last 12 years, this is a team that's won one playoff series, and they don't get any of the heat that a franchise like Buffalo gets, And I get it's because like injuries play a factor in the team's success, and you can't really control injuries. But the noise around New Jersey, I feel like, and Devils fans are going to hate me for saying it, but it deserves to be louder. Like I'm with Devils fans for the way they feel about Tom Fitzgerald, and if he goes and makes a move now, it's going to feel underwhelming because of all this talk about Quinn Hughes, right? It's going to be like a too little, too late move. You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think if you go out and get Ryan O'Reilly, if you and I and Mike Rupp have talked about this a lot. I know it's a different class. You're not getting Quinn Hughes. We just talked about all the reasons that Quinn Hughes is Quinn Hughes and why anybody would want him. I totally get that. But this was the best team in the East for the first month and a half of the season. Their goaltending has let them down a little bit. Their scoring has let them down, which is obviously they're missing 2 or 3 of their best playmakers in Meyer and Hughes up front, and they're missing their best defenseman, best all-around defenseman, in Brett Pesce, and they've missed him for months. He's only played whatever it was, 12 games. It's, I think it's easy to. We live in this age. I'm not going to give like an old man wisdom here, but like day to day, the world crumbles in every fan's mind if they lose a game. And then tomorrow, if the guys come back and they win and they get healthy, we're friggin' great again, and we're going to win a Stanley Cup. I think you can't ride that roller coaster if you're a franchise. You can't live like that. I think, and not to defend Fitzy, he's clearly trying to do something. I think he's shown a bit too much patience in the past. He waited a long time to try to get that right Jacob Markstrom deal. Then they extend him. He hasn't played very well. That's just the way it all, the luck of it goes. And obviously the freak injury to Jack, what the hell are you going to do about that? This kid has had some injury issues, but not like this. This could happen to anybody. So without making excuses for their inactivity, I don't think if they make a trade for a guy who's a Stanley Cup champion, whether it's Stamkos, which I personally would not do, if it's Ryan O'Reilly, that guy's going to change that locker room. This guy's been a champion. This guy's been around. This is this is still a very youthful, inexperienced group at its core. There's guys that have been there for 9 or 10 years, in Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt. But as you pointed out, they haven't been in the shit. They haven't had to fight for a Game 7 situation. They won, I think, the one Game 7 that they've ever been in, which was against the Rangers. But it's inexperience. So I feel like I wanted to make sure I got that in on you.
Fair enough.
I feel like a move that they make will still be seismic because it's not something that's happened with this team before. They've obviously brought in some free agents, but they've never made that.
Didn't they trade for Timo?
I mean, they did, and that worked out pretty well. They didn't give up a lot for him, though. I mean, that was, if they bring in a guy like O'Reilly or a guy like Shen. O'Reilly, to me, if you're talking about that veteran presence guy, he's the best of that group.
Agreed.
I think it changes a lot, and I think it will be appreciated by the fan base that they did something, and that it will be welcomed by the team that's been incredibly fragile and kind of waiting for something to happen. And now you're not getting Quinn Hughes. Okay, that waiting part's over, but maybe they make some other move. You shake it up a little bit, and you start to get healthy, and all of a sudden, look at that, you're back feeling good about yourselves.
Yeah, I had the fortune of playing with Ryan O'Reilly even as a young guy, and he has an aura, even if he's not producing, let's say, offensively like he did earlier in his career. And I know he's always been billed as a two-way guy. He's also a guy, Arthur, that spends about as much time working on his craft as I've ever seen. And I think that type of thing can be infectious with a group that needs a little bit of a kick in the ass or, a little bit of help getting to the next step. So I actually would sign up for that for the New Jersey Devils all day, every day. Would be Ryan O'Reilly, to join that team. So, Arthur, it's always great having you and good to have these conversations with you. Make sure you go and you check out Arthur, Johnny, and Rupper's new show, the Tri-State Hockey Podcast. Guys, like I'm not a huge hockey podcast consumer, but I do find myself putting the show on when I'm in the car just because I want to hear what or how Arthur is going to respond to Johnny next. That's one of my favorite parts of the day when that show comes out. So thanks for your time today, Arthur. We're always grateful, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Arthur. See you later.
Thanks.
See you later. Great stuff with Arthur. We do have Marty Biron waiting, so I don't want to waste any time, Colby. I want to give a quick shout out from our sponsor, Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip before, during, and after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. And always with Uber Eats, we crave the stats. And today's stat of the day, it's going to be a lengthy one. Since Terry Pegula bought the Sabres back in February 2011, there have been 5 GMs, 8 head coaches, including 2 Lindy Ruff tenures, 28 goalies with 1+ game played, 7 captains, 2 first overall picks, and the cherry on top, 0 playoff appearances. So that's a mouthful of things that are probably a little negative, Marty. Sorry to bring you in that sense, but it's great to see you. Great to have you on the show. And I'm a huge fan of yours. I've done your radio show quite a bit, and it's nice to have you here. And I don't even know where to get started with all that, to be honest.
Well,
but how is everything?
Let me just jump in and say too, Marty, I'm from Philly, and I watched you play goalie when I was a little bit younger, and I always like seeing you in the orange and black, and so I'm also a fan of especially when you were playing. It was good having you here in Philly. That was always a fun place to play for goaltenders, I'm sure.
I wish I would have been there a lot longer after 2 years and 2 like really good seasons in the conference finals. And like I was laughing the other day, Chris Pronger was in the building in Buffalo for Prime Amazon Prime Canada, and I always say, well, the reason that I left Philly is because they wanted to bring in Chris Pronger because they needed the cap space. So they signed Ray Emery then, and but yeah, it was. I wish I would have been there longer because I felt like there was something really building up, but maybe I did too good in the 2 years. Not good enough to stay, but too good because I was going to get paid more money that they wanted to give me.
Well, they've had their missteps with goaltenders over the years, so it's probably good for the longevity of your career to get in and get out. But they're still searching for it. And Johnny brought you in with that Uber Eats stat, Marty, and the only rebuttal that I have to that is, Terry Pegula also owns the Buffalo Bills, and the Buffalo Bills are in the Final Four every single year and look like a team that could, with Josh Allen, probably the best player in the entire NFL, like that organization seems so solid. And so it's like, I don't know, like I know everybody points the fingers at Pegula. Maybe it's right, maybe it's not right, but like that organization is unbelievable from all accounts, Marty.
Well, yeah, and I think it's not right to point a finger at the Pegulas. Obviously, they've always been and successful in every ventures that they've undertaken, and you're right to point out the Bills. But the big difference, what made the Bills become what they are now, the Bills Mafia, everybody around the NFL loving Josh Allen and the characters that they have on that team, the Deion Dawkins and all of that, is that they did get a quarterback, a franchise quarterback. One of the stats that you guys mentioned before I joined was, I think you said 28 goalies that played at least one game. So when the Pegulas bought the Sabres, Ryan Miller was here. And it was at a time where maybe they were going to go into a rebuild. Millsy was getting older. He was starting to want it. Like he had mentioned, I don't know if it was then or a little bit after, that he wanted to go maybe out west, as he had just got married or starting a family. His wife was working, in Hollywood. So he wanted to go out west. So they made that happen. They haven't been able to find the right goaltender or the goaltender that's going to make the difference. And we all know this league is about goaltending. You mentioned the GMs and the coaches and all of that. You give me a good goalie, I'll give you a good coach or I'll give you a good GM. It's about goaltending. And the Sabres have not been able to find that guy that is going to give him consistency year after year. Have they had a couple of guys here and there? Yeah, Linus Ullmark was good for a little bit. They actually had some of their best goaltending was when they weren't trying to win with Tim Murray as a GM. They were trying to tank to get Jack Eichel, not Jack Eichel, Connor McDavid. They ended up with Jack Eichel, but they actually had decent goaltending then, but it wasn't what they wanted to do. So I think that is probably the biggest number that stands out to me is 28 goalies in those years that have not been able to find consistency there.
Well, what stands out to me, Marty, like again, like everything you just said makes total sense, but also like when you look at their roster, who have they had on their team that's won something before? Like they don't have players that have won cups, and on their roster now, there's nobody. And I think that's a big thing too. And when you have, a lot of these young draft picks that come in and play right away, they need someone to teach them how to win. No, like I think that's a big part of this too, is that they haven't had any experienced winners in their lineup for years.
Yeah, but it's also hard. And look, 3 years ago, the Sabres were 1 point away from making the playoffs. They were a point behind the Florida Panthers, which the Florida Panthers ended up losing to Vegas and then winning back-to-back cups. So I remember at that time, the front office and Kevyn Adams talking about how, hey, free agents want to come here because we have, the players and even when they traded, and they had already traded Jack Eichel by that point, it wasn't like, oh, we have Jack Eichel. No, they were like, we look at Rasmus Dahlin, Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch. We have players that we're going to build around, and because they were on their way up, like free agents, players, they were considering Buffalo as a fun team, a team that was scoring a ton of goals. I think that at that point is where it didn't tip the right way. So you were a point away from making the playoffs, and you've got momentum, and then it took a step back. Don Granato was the head coach at the time, and I really like Don Granato. I think he was a player's coach, really trusted these young guys with wanting to give them the tools to be good. But then I remember after the next year, all the players are talking about accountability. We need more accountability. So Kevyn Adams brings back Lindy Ruff. And in the last year and a half, Lindy has been trying to set this standard of accountability and trying to figure out, okay, who are the guys that you can build with and where do you want to go? And look, it's unfinished. They're still playing for 500 right now, but I really feel that 22-23 season was the mark, right? It was year 3 of Kevyn Adams, and it was right there. And instead of continuing to climb, it took a step back, and that is unfortunate because I think it was going in the right direction, but it didn't continue to grow in that right direction.
Look, we can continue to basically play Monday morning quarterback for the Buffalo Sabres like we all do every week in and week out. I want to focus more on the future here because Yarmo Kekalainen, he made and seemingly got more out of a Columbus franchise than others had. He was there for a while. He helped build some good teams. He had John Tortorella as his coach for a while, and we know the accountability that Torts brings to his teams. What do you think we should expect here in the short term with Yarmo? Because I've seen a couple of people, reputable people, write that they would expect Yarmo to be aggressive in maybe making some changes. Again, I don't know if that means front office changes, coaching changes, player changes, but you've been around this game forever, Marty. I mean, it streams through your blood. So with all your experience and all the things you've seen as a player and as a broadcaster, what do you think the first few shoes to drop will be in Buffalo as Yarmo has taken over now in the lead chair?
Well, this is a different situation when having Yarmo Kekalainen step in as GM because he's been here for 6 months. Like he was hired over the summertime as an advisor, a senior advisor to Kevyn Adams, bring some experience. So it's not like you're hiring a GM and then he's sitting down and he's kind of flipping all the departments and all the files that he have on his desk. And he's like, I'm going to change everything. I think that he's had some time to evaluate and see where what has been happening and where he wants it to go. Now, Yarmo, it doesn't seem to me, and I've got a chance to know him a little bit while he's been here, and his time in Columbus. I know a lot of people that have worked with him. He doesn't seem to me the kind of guy that's a riverboat gambler. Like he's not going to go out and just put all his chips in the middle of the table day one, right? But he also has made some very aggressive moves. I remember when he retained, he didn't trade Panarin and Bobrovsky at the deadline. They were going to both be UFAs. He wanted to make a run. He was like, I'm rolling the dice here. I'm maybe they stay, maybe they don't. Maybe we win, 2-3 playoff rounds and who knows what happens. So I think that there is an aspect to Yarmo that is at times aggressive. I don't think this is what we're going to see right this second. I think he's going to come in and try to lay a solid foundation and some stability. I think it also depends on where the Sabres go from here. They've got a game Thursday against Philadelphia. They played the Islanders on Saturday, the Devils on Sunday, the Ottawa Senators next Tuesday before the Christmas break. Okay, let's see what those 4 games are gonna give, because they just are in a 3-game winning streak. They're 6 points away from a playoff spot. Like there's still a lot of games, a lot of life to this organization moving forward. Now, if in a month from now it's going to, completely the wrong way, and you're looking at the Olympic breaks and you have, 2-3 weeks to maybe make some changes, I think we may see more then if it's not going the right direction. But he'll sit back and see, okay, do we get a little bit of a boost here? Do we get a little bit of an energy infused in the locker room? We just came back from the road, started terribly, 0-3. We finished with 3 wins. Let's see what happens. So I don't anticipate major changes now, but we'll see if the results dictate a need for that or not.
And listen, I know this is going to be a conversation, Marty, over the next few days, I'm sure, about Lindy Ruff, right? Colby and I never like to talk about somebody's job or, take away somebody's job, but it's just inevitable conversation that we're going to have right now. And there's 2 names that come to mind when you think about the Buffalo Sabres for what their next coach might look like. One of those guys we actually interviewed this summer, and that's Michael Pekka, who's done a hell of a job in his early coaching career, who I think you played with in Buffalo, correct? You guys were teammates together?
I did. I held out with Pax. We were both
really
contract holdouts in the 2000-2001 season, I believe. So that's the year he missed the whole season. So yeah, him and I were skating every day on our own.
What an awesome guy he is too, huh? Love Michael Pekka. Did a great job on the Rangers bench now, having a good season in Chicago. Was obviously with Rochester, and Seth Appert, who's now the assistant coach of Buffalo, who is probably another name that's going to be in the mix. And it's interesting when you talk about the experienced guys in Rochester, because they came up with a lot of this roster, right? Like you look at the Sabres lineup right now, and it's filled with guys who played in Rochester. So are the Sabres more likely to go in the direction of maybe those 2 guys who don't necessarily have the NHL coaching experience, but have been around this group? Or do they, bring in a name who has a ton of NHL coaching experience, but hasn't been around this organization? Like it's 2 completely different directions that they could go in.
Yeah, 2 completely different directions, obviously. I love Pex. He's awesome. I've known him, his family, from my very beginning here in Buffalo. Actually, funny enough, when I got drafted by the Sabres in 1995, at the draft in Edmonton, the Sabres traded Alexander McGillney to the Vancouver Canucks. In return, they got Michael Pekka and a first-round pick, which they selected Jay McKee, and then I was the next first-round pick for the Sabres. So I came into the Sabres organization at the same time as Pex. Obviously, he was there before me playing, but I played with him, and he lived in Buffalo all this time. We golfed together. He's awesome. Now, having said that, I think that there is something to be said for, the fact that he was a former captain, the way that he's developed himself. He went to Washington in the COVID season, running the taxi squad with Peter Laviolette. Then he went to Rochester, went back to be with Laviolette's staff in New York. Now is with Blashill's staff in Chicago. There's a lot of experience there, obviously. But he's also never been a head coach, right? At the NHL level or at any professional level. I know that he was, coaching his son and doing some stuff like that. But is this a Marty St. Louis type of situation where you're taking a flyer and let's go or not? I don't think that would be the route that the Sabres would go. Just because they did the Lindy Ruff route, let's bring back the winningest coach in Sabres history. And so, and it's the jury's still out on what Lindy's, second term is going to be like. And I hope it's a positive one because, they can still go that way. Now you mentioned Seth Appert. I love Seth. I also think he's done a fantastic job coaching in Rochester, being with the National Development Program, and as an assistant coach here with the Sabres. But again, do you look to bring more experience? You guys mentioned the success that Yarmo had in Columbus with Torts, especially. I had Torts with the Rangers. I think Torts has a connection to the Sabres as well. He coached in Rochester, won a Calder Cup in Rochester, was an assistant in Buffalo. Is that the route that Yarmo would want to go? And if that's even if they feel like there's a change, and maybe it's, Lindy Ruff is in the last year of his deal. Maybe it's in the offseason. Who knows? Maybe it doesn't happen. But there's a Pete DeBoer. There's a lot, right? And I think that's the same thing. Again, you have these files on your desk. If you were a new GM, you'd go right into the head coaching file and say, okay, what's going on here? What do we need to do? But at the same time, he's been here for 6 months. So Yarmo has been able to have conversations with Lindy Ruff, with the coaching staff, and seeing where are we going, what's happening. To me, again, I don't think coaching is going to be a point of emphasis here. I think Alex Tuch is going to be a point of emphasis because he's a UFA at the end of the year. And he's Western New York. He's a Syracuse guy, but grew up loving the Sabres. They made that trade with Jack Eichel. Like, you got to look to see what do you want to do with Alex Tuch. And I think that's the number one priority. Then after that is, okay, like, where is the roster construction, the prospects? Is it time to make some moves, bring in some other players on the team? And then I think you're going to look at, your coaching. But I think that's already been evaluated, and Lindy Ruff has done a really good job.
Yeah. So then let me just ask you, what if you're tomorrow, they made you the GM of the team, what are you doing with Alex Tuch? How are you handling that situation? Because it's a tough one.
Depends if the rumors are, you hear rumors that, well, it's going to be north of 10 million and Adrian Kempe signed for 10.6 and maybe Alex Tuch wants the same type of money. Is it a 7-year deal? Is it you can still sign now 8-year deals with your team. That's going to go down, starting July 1. So, is this something that Alex Tuch wants? I'm like, if I'm giving him an 8-year deal, maybe we're going to do less on the AAV. You're getting an extra year. I think Alex Tuch is a really big part of this group, this core group. He's a stud. He can play power play. He can play 5-on-5, top line. You can drop him down the lineup if you want to. Shorthanded, he's awesome. So yeah, I think that he has the value. Now, I think there's a sticker shock a little bit because in the summertime I thought, between 8 and 8.5 million. And then all of a sudden, the cap going up, all the contracts are being signed. That's a lot of money. And I was, maybe over 9. Now it's like maybe over 10, maybe closer to 11. I think that there would need to be a major conversation with his camp about the length, the money. Maybe it's front loaded to be able to lessen the burden of the cap. But I think he's a massive, massive part of where this team wants to go, where this team needs to go. And maybe you'd have to give up a little something to make sure that he signed.
Marty, I just got two things before we let you go here. The first thing is a statement. The second thing is a question. The statement is your backdrop, by the way, gorgeous. I mean, unreal setup. The Rangers bucket to your left, I think, is nasty. That's a sick helmet. And my final question for you here. We love talking about college hockey on the show. We do a college hockey segment every week. Kobe played at BU. I played at UMass and Mercyhurst. And I just wanted to know the scouting report on Jacob Biron, because it seems like he's starting to get his groove going a little bit.
Yeah, he's getting his groove going. He's played 3 games this year at Army and beat UMass the other day, which was awesome. Funny enough, you mentioned all the goalie masks that I have behind me. None of them are mine. They're all mine, but my dad, when I played in the NHL and even before, he's like, I don't need anything, all I want is the mask so I can save them. So the one over this side, this first one over here, that's my midget AAA mask. And then it's my junior mask, and then it goes on and on. But all these masks are technically my father. And then my dad bypassed me and gave them all to my son, Jacob. So now they're on loan. They're on loan from my own kid, right? But that's his Bills helmet. A lot of that stuff is things that we had around the house. They're mostly his. But I felt like it was going to be good for the backdrop. So I kind of took over the basement because that used to be his living space before he went to college. So I took over the basement. Now, Jacob was a late developing goalie. Funny enough, when he was 11 years old, he had played goal for a few years, as a 8, 9, 10-year-old. Then 11-year-old, he's like, I want to be a player again. So, okay, go get all new players gear, put him in skating school because he was a good skater. But I'm like, now you got to catch up on everybody. And then the next year he went back to goalie. But I felt like that year at 11 when he played out was really good for him. And then when he started to be like 14, 15, that's when, his first year playing AAA hockey was at 15 years old. He never played AAA hockey before that. And then he went back to AA before he got back to AAA again. Played a couple of years juniors at the CCHL level in Canada and really started to develop. So he was a late developing guy, but I feel that he, the college route was perfect for him, gave him a chance to get stronger, get better. He's pretty big. He's almost 6'4" and, 205, 210 pounds. So he covers the net well, moves well. So he's just waiting for an opportunity, but kind of funny. Him and JJ Cataldo were both freshmen last year, came in at the same time at Army. And JJ had a fantastic year last year and has been really good again this season. So, Jacob is backing up and played 3 games waiting for his time, but he's got a good attitude and, he's played well when he's had to go in.
Yeah, listen, it's a great program at Army. Zach McKelvey and I, we were teammates in the American League at one point. I think maybe one season we were in Providence together. I think the world of them.
Coach is awesome. Funny enough, when I was 15, 16, I got a couple packages in the mail. It's like, I remember Michigan State and Michigan Tech send me packages in the mail, and it was not in the cards for me. I was a French kid from Quebec. I was going to play in the Q, right? But I didn't go through the recruiting process. And then when we went to visit Army and Coach Riley took us in and
he's the best.
down and Coach Z was there. It was incredible. I'm like, can I rewind the clock? And I want to go to college now. I want to skip the major junior. I want to go to college. Maybe I still have some eligibility. Maybe I can play 4 more years. So I don't know, but it was unbelievable.
I'll never forget the time, Marty, I'm pretty sure Marshy, Tyler Seguin, and Andrew Bodnerchuk to a bar at BU. On a Tuesday night. I took him to Tease Tuesday, right next to Agganis Arena. And, we were all like, I think Tyler was probably 18. I was like 20, 21, and Marshy couldn't have been more than 22. And these guys were like, holy shit. Like, we should have played, So listen, that's why we love the fact that these kids now don't have to make that decision at the age of 15 years old. I always, that never sat well with me, Marty. And so, it's lucky for these kids. And I love hearing you say that. I've heard that before. We do have a question in our chat. asking Army as in West Point. Yes, it is West Point.
Yes.
They're Division I. They play in the Atlantic Conference. They're a good team every year. Air Force also has a very good team. First year head coach Zach McKelvey took over for a legend. You know, Riley was there for, I don't even know how many years, forever.
I think north of 30.
It was him, his brother, and
Yeah.
his dad since the 60s, right? So it's been, I think it was 75 years of the Riley family or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
His son was my roommate at Mercyhurst too. Brendan Riley. Jack Riley was my captain.
Yeah,
well,
he's
Jack,
awesome.
Yeah.
So he's on the bench now, so it's great.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So
good.
we'll be keeping an eye out for him, and hopefully he'll get some more games in there. You know how it works, right? You just got to be ready when your number is called, and then you just try to have that Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe situation where you never get the ball back. Right? You never give the net back. So, Marty, thanks for coming on today. Yeah, great talking to you. And
thank you, Marty.
You know, you don't have an easy job in Buffalo.
Anytime, you guys want me to jump in, happy to do so and fit in the calendar, and we go from there. But I'll see you guys around, I'm sure.
All right.
Appreciate you, Marty. Have a good one.
Awesome.
Happy holidays.
Great enthusiasm from Marty.
Yeah, he's the best. He's the best.
Look, I'm not.
I love going on with him and Cooley. I go on their radio show a lot, NHL radio.
It's not easy to go on TV every night for a bad team. It's hard. I mean, I had to do it in Chicago, and honestly, I had to do it in Philly. So I did it for like 5 straight years with 2 very passionate fan bases that were angry. And it's not an easy job to get up every day and do those games. And like, I'm not complaining for him, because it's still a great job to have, but he's got a lot of enthusiasm, Johnny. So good to hear, the Buffalo Sabres side of things. He seems optimistic, and we'll see how it plays out and see what Yarmo Kekalainen does in the coming days.
Yeah, and I saw people commenting in our chat, like Pete DeBoer. Sounds like Pete DeBoer will be the next coach. No chance Pete DeBoer is coming back for Buffalo, right, Cole?
No, I don't think
no
so.
chance. No chance. All right. Only one more thing to get to before we get off of today's show. I got to get to Vancouver's morning skate. Going to catch up with Zeev Boyum about the trade. Excited to talk to Zeev. We love Zeev on this show. As everyone knows, he did a great interview with us this summer. But our bet tonight, whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. You must be 19 or older. Presented by Bet365. And we are going to go with the Detroit Red Wings on the money line. They're hosting the New York Islanders. The Islanders have been on a roll, but so has Detroit. The Red Wings have won 4 of their last 5. My good friend John Leonard, the older brother of Ryan Leonard, recently got called up to the NHL. He should be playing tonight for the Red Wings. Leno had 19 goals in 20 games in the AHL. Leno can rip the damn puck. So excited to watch the Red Wings tonight. I'll have the Red Wings Islanders game on my computer in between periods of the Rangers and Canucks game. Should have another fun episode tomorrow. Tomorrow is our Cuppa College segment. We'll have Ted Donato, the head coach of Harvard, on the show tomorrow. Do we have another guest tomorrow lined up or no? Just Donato?
Not yet. I think we were still kicking that around. So we'll have Teddy Donato tomorrow. We're going to have John Van Beesbrook and James Van Riemsdyk on Thursday.
Oh, that's a mouthful.
So we will get, it's a lot of letters there. So we'll talk a little World Juniors, U.S. World Juniors on Thursday. We'll talk to Reamer about what's going on in Detroit. Probably get a little Olympic update from him. We'll ask him about Quinn Hughes and what the buzz around his locker room was about Quinn. And then we'll just kind of go from there and see how the week plays out. So I am looking forward to having Teddy Donato tomorrow. No doubt about that. I mean, one of and we'll get into it on the show, but like, my dad wanted me to go to Harvard after I visited Harvard. After our meeting with Ted Donato,
what parent wouldn't want their kid to go to Harvard?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no, but we'll tell the story. We'll talk about it a little bit tomorrow when I went to Harvard as a 15-year-old to visit with Teddy and the relationship that I've had with him since. So make sure you hit the like button on the way out. Yesterday was a huge day for us. We had tons and tons of likes, great comments, tons and tons of downloads. So get those automatic downloads going. If you have 30 seconds right now, go to Spotify, give us a rating, leave us a review. If you have 60 seconds, go to Spotify and then go to Apple Podcast and give us a rating and leave us a review. Those help bump us up. The algorithms, they get us in front of more people. and then gives us an opportunity to grow this show and continue to add more guests and bring more people onto the show. So with that, we hope everybody has a great day. No Oliver sightings today. I think he's upstairs with the family, hanging out. And I'm laughing at New York Marine, who says, I need to be meaner to Johnny. I've been anti-Colby lately. Love you, though, always.
Well, you were rage baiting.
Listen, we love all the contributions to this show, even if you're negative, even if you're strong-willed, whatever. The contributions from our chat is always incredibly important, which is why, honestly, we hate the summer shows so much, because we don't have the chat. It is just so much less entertaining when you guys are not chirping from the cheap seats in our chat. So we say it all the time, but we don't say it enough. We hope everybody has a great day, and we shall see everybody as we always do, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Morning Cuppa Hockey here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And don't forget, we've got more great hockey content every day. You can catch DFO live at noon and stick around for the sheet with Jeff Marek at 1 p.m. right here on Daily Faceoff. Until then, keep your coffee hot and your